Mick Mulvaney, director of the Office of Management and Budget, joins us from the White House. He's responsible for taking the steps necessary to implement the government shutdown. Director Mulvaney, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks very much for having me.
I want to get to the particulars of whether there'll be a deal, but first this. The death benefits to the families of military members killed in action will not be paid during this shutdown. Is the White House pushing Congress to act on this?
Absolutely, for that reason and a myriad of other reasons. I think that everyone admits and acknowledges the president did not want this shutdown, actively worked to prevent the shutdown. The stories that you've heard about the death benefits to the two service members who were killed they are absolutely true. There are other stories like that throughout the government. The government should be open. We should not, however, be negotiating over a non-financial issue, the DACA issue, as part of keeping the government open. Those discussions on DACA were going on before the shutdown. They'll go on after the shutdown, but they should not be tied to the funding bill for the government.
Mick, Senator McCaskill introduced legislation to withhold pay from members of Congress while the government is shut down. Should that happen?
Sure. When I was in Congress for the shutdown of 2013. We had a basic rule which said that we would get paid the same way that our staff would get paid. So if staff didn't get paid, Congress wouldn't get paid. If staff got paid late, Congress get paid late. I think that's just good practice. We'll be doing the same thing here at the Office of Management and Budget.
Well, you have experience, Director Mulvaney, with the shutdown. You voted for it over the issue of Obamacare back in 2013, and now the Democrats are holding it up for DACA. Why was it okay back in 2013 and not okay now?
Yeah, keep in mind, when you say vote for a shutdown, what you do is you vote for or against a funding bill. And in 2013, conservative Republicans like myself were asked to vote for a funding bill that included full funding for Obamacare, something to which we objected. And for that reason, we refused to vote for it. This bill is different. In fact, this is something the likes of which Washington has never seen before. This is a bill that Democrats support, yet they are still not voting for it. They oppose the bill, but they don't really oppose the parts of it. They support keeping the government open. They support the children's health insurance program. They support the delay in the various taxes, including the Cadillac tax within Obamacare. It's the first time I think anybody can remember seeing this in Washington. Maybe it speaks to how bad the dysfunction is within the Senate Democrats.
Let's talk about dysfunction for just a second. Do you think the president should be doing more? He prides himself on being a deal maker.
I'm hard-pressed to know what else the president could do. He met last week with large groups of members of both parties. He's continued to work the phones. I think you know that Mr. Schumer was here by himself, I think, for more than an hour and a half on Friday. It's hard to imagine the president being more engaged, and I do compare it to President Obama's lack of engagement in 2013. The president back then, I think, was encouraging the shutdown. This president is working very hard to make sure it didn't happen in the first place. Now that it's here, he's working hard to make sure it stops.
Mick, who do you think has to get in a room together to figure this out? You mentioned the meeting on Friday between Chuck Schumer and the president. That didn't work. Who has to be in a room, in your estimation, this morning?
Yeah, I think the folks who hold the cards here are the Democrats who say they want to work across the aisle, the ones who go home. John Tester, who goes back to Montana and says, you know, vote for me. I'm a really good bipartisan guy. I can work with Republicans. Folks like that who are now here in Washington not doing that. Those are the folks who hold the keys, the folks who say one thing back home and do another here. That's what we need. Chuck Schumer clearly is heavily invested in this shutdown. He's a leader of the Democrat Party. We get that. But there are rank and file Democrats who have said they want to work across the aisle. Now's their chance to do that.
Mick, how long does this last for?
I don't know. I sort of thought it would be done by this morning, simply because I thought that part of this was an attempt by some of the Democrat leadership, most specifically Mr. Schumer, to deny the president sort of this weekend worth of media talking about the one-year anniversary of the inauguration. I wouldn't be surprised if it reopens today at the vote in noon, but if it doesn't, it could go for several days.
Did you talk to the president this weekend? Was he upset that he did not make it to Mar-a-Lago for the celebration of his 1 year in office?
No, I think the president was upset that the government was closed, and we were talking about this on media instead of talking about the tax plan and how many jobs he's created in the stock market and how we've defeated ISIS, how the two Koreas are talking to each other. There's a long list of successes in the first year that didn't get any attention this weekend because of the shutdown.
All right, Mick Mulvaney, thank you very much.
Thanks, y'all.